Hi, everyone. Welcome back to A Little More Inspired. My name is Blanca. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, or follow button so that you never miss any of my new episodes. Also, please check out my website, a littlemoreinspired.com, so you can explore all of my content. And while you're there, please be sure to submit your email so that you get email notifications every time that I update something new. I am really excited about diving into today's episode where I will be exploring topics on envy and jealousy. I was very inspired by this book that I recently have been reading called Green Eyes by Mariah Perry. It was an amazing book. It's so good. I definitely encourage you guys to go purchase it. I will link it down below. I thought that she did a really great job on just giving you context on the different of archetypes you'll meet of people living with the spirit of envy and jealousy. Really short read and just really good. Really loved it. So I just wanted to mention that book before I dive into my topic today. Envy and jealousy are emotions that often make people uncomfortable, but I don't think that they should. I believe these emotions are actually natural signals that can point us towards our heart's desires. It's when we reject them or deny them that pride can take over and turn them into something more insidious. I have really been exploring my ideas and my core values on friendship recently because I find that I've had a really difficult time with connection throughout my life. I would love to say that I have a group of friends that I've grown up with my whole life, I can call, but I've actually had a really tough time in connections. And I don't know if that is common for a lot of people. Sometimes I feel like I look online and everybody just seems to have so many friends. And throughout my life, I feel like I've had chapters being in big groups of people. But I personally feel like I don't really do well in big groups of people. I feel like eventually it always turns bad for me because I'm not really somebody who falls into groupthink. I think that I can for a bit while I'm in the high of the experience, but then after a while I start to see things that I don't like, and I start to realize where I have lost a bit of my authenticity. I've tried really hard to find community, but it hasn't always panned out well for me, and it does bring me a little bit of shame. I'm not going to lie. I'm somebody who is very deep and very introspective and thinks about things a lot, and I'm very sensitive, and I think that that experience has also been a bit isolating because I find that sometimes I don't meet a lot of people that are also on that journey of growth, you know? I think that also just being young, most people are worried about having fun and being a part of a group of people, and they don't really care if it's like shallow or empty. And I'm not really looking for those kinds of experiences anymore. Sometimes I feel like I've been very naive in the way that I've explored friendship or the way that I've explored connection. I've had some really terrible experiences, y'all. I have had experiences where I don't even know how I got myself in some of these experiences because I was so delulu in the way that I went about my life. I had no boundaries, foresight on being more protective of myself and my energy. I've been moving towards this place of excessively isolating myself recently where, oh gosh, this topic kind of makes me emotional because I'm working through this right now and just growing through experiences that like cause me to isolate excessively sometimes. Like I feel like okay, I don't want to like victimize myself and be like, "Oh my god, everybody, that's not what this episode is about." I feel like I've been very naive in the way that I've approached friendship, and I think that my wounds have caused me to create this dynamic with people where I pedestalize people and I overgive of myself or maybe think less of myself in connection. I haven't had the easiest time in friendship, even though I feel like I've craved friendship most of my life. I'm a natural networker. I have been observing how I have presented myself out in the world. And, I personally think that it's important to not lose your kindness and your compassion and your sweetness and having that light spirit out in this world, but I do feel like this world sets you up to snatch that light out of you. And I definitely love certain parts about my personality, but there are other parts that I realize now that I have to keep kind of protected in a vault so that no one takes advantage of that spot in me anymore. And I don't personally want to be so closed off where I don't allow myself to meet any new people. I think that friendship brings up a lot of shame inside of me because I've gotten it wrong a lot, and I've just gotten to a place sometimes I don't even want to make any more friends, honestly. Like I'm totally okay with just being by myself. I don't necessarily want to harden my heart because I don't want to change who I am. I've also come to realize that we live in a world where, whether we like it or not, everyone is playing a game. And if you don't learn the rules, you may end up paying the price for your naivety. Is it fair? No. And I wish that I could remove it, but I can't change the world, like I can't change the game that everyone's playing. As much as I would like to isolate, it's just the world that we live in. And if you don't learn the rules, you are going to suffer in this world. I don't know if there's people out there who feel like people have this really visceral reaction to them. And sometimes people see things within me that are hiding within them. And I'm sometimes just an easy projection because maybe they feel like I won't retaliate. So no, it's not fair, but becoming aware of this can help us navigate life with more wisdom without losing our sense of morality. So, today, to start, I'll be reading a short journal entry, a personal aha moment about realizing that the world is this kind of game. And then I'll explore what envy really is and how to recognize when you're surrounded by envious people, and how to protect your peace and how to avoid becoming envious yourself. I hope that this episode gives you something to reflect on, and most of all, it leaves you a little more inspired. If you like this episode, please be sure to share it with anyone else who wants to learn about the topic on envy or maybe can relate to these experiences. Because sometimes I feel like on social media, we're flooded with people who have these amazing group of friends, and sometimes those pictures aren't real. Like sometimes you see these groups of friends and you think, wow, why don't I have those friends and why don't I have those experiences? But sometimes in those groups, it's not what it always seems. Yeah, I want to say that if you're somebody out there who doesn't have a big group of friends or doesn't feel like they've mastered this world in terms of like, I haven't either. I'm learning about it now. And I think that one of the biggest things to learn is about how to manage the emotions of envy, not only from ourselves, but from others. So, this is my aha letter to myself on this realization. Because I have always felt that as I walk through the world, there's been something I can't quite understand about people. Maybe it's because I was raised to be a good girl, or maybe because I've always have had a genuine curiosity for other people. I found myself moving through life very naively. I used to have this excited spirit who genuinely wanted to meet and know as many people as she possibly could. I walked around the world genuinely believing everyone had goodness, genuine intentions. While people do have goodness within, I've learned with time, not everyone comes to the realization of the goodness within them, one that requires no need for comparison or competition. The conditioning of our acquired experiences, the environments we're exposed to, the beliefs we have adopted have caused many to dim that light. Throughout my life, or in my younger years, excited to be free and out in the world, excited to meet people, I've had the cruel realization that my view of the world was not as good or the rainbows and sunshines I believed it to be. Maybe it's my upbringing that set me up to give my power away or to please or to be a victim. But I choose to no longer be a victim in my life. I choose to empower myself. I've come to realize life is really a game, one I had no idea I was in or playing. Everyone to some degree starts off innocent, but with time, something happens that corrupts our mind to compare, judge, envy, criticize ourselves and others. These insecurities will be the driving force of most people. The desire to prove we're better, better off, richer, more beautiful, never less than. Everyone is playing a game that is here to convince you you don't matter unless others tell you you matter. A game that corrupts your spirit of genuine love, joy, happiness, and your peace. Everyone is looking to see what they can get out of you, use you, taint your mind of who you really are. As painful as it was to come to the realization of this, it has also been a transformative experience. I thought that maybe my spirit had died as I've grown fearful of others, a lack of trust in myself that maybe I have not had good judgment. I don't know how to play this game, but slowly I've ignited my own light and I can see I can be of the world without being afraid, afraid to be myself or afraid of being in it. I've learned that there are ways to stay in the game without being afraid of other people hurting me because I'm no longer afraid of what others think of me. My source of validation is no longer other people. I've learned that the source of this game everyone is playing requires my need to be validated by others. I've also learned that just because everyone is playing, that through spiritual growth, emotional intelligence, I can stay in the game. I don't have to hide away afraid of everyone, which is much harder to say than to actually feel it. I've learned that spiritual discernment, developing that muscle, can protect me without being led by my wounds and fears. I've also learned that there are souls out there in the world who are real and genuine, who will recognize my light as I recognize theirs. That I can still be excited to meet people, but now have the tools to protect myself. Good people takes time to find, to look for the slow burns and connection, and there are people who want to reciprocate my intentions. I've also learned to hold compassion for those who are still lost in the game, to not seek revenge, for revenge is not mine to give it to the one above who sees all, to take every hurt, bruise, betrayal, rock bottom, and to alchemize it into light. I've learned every lesson has served a purpose to bring me closer to God, to bring me back to myself, to make me kinder, wiser, and smarter. I've learned that it's better to seek growth than petty revenge, even less wise to stay a victim. I've learned in this game called life, others will try to snatch you out of your light, but you can't let them win. You can't let them convince you you don't matter, because you do. We all do, each one of us carry a divine light that was created by a divine source that loves us so much. Always come back to that, even in your darkest hour. It will lead you to places only He could orchestrate. It will make you a better person, more concerned of the life within than the life of comparison and competition. Remember that the world of the ego wants us stuck there. They don't want us to find our divinity, but you must rebel as much as you can. Fight against being pitted against each other. Look to inspire and set one up. Find your divine light. You are competing with no one. So, what is envy? I think envy is probably one of the worst insecurities that we can have because of its insidious nature. It takes over the mind and it's a spiritual wound, I believe. It goes beyond wanting what others have. The core of envy is inferiority, either the belief that we are inherently inferior or the fear of being inferior to someone else, masked by the belief of superiority. And I feel like we live in a world where envy is the biggest insecurity that most people have, or the insecurity of inadequacy, just because of the nature of the kind of society that we're living in, social media era, technology era, where everybody is displaying their wealth and their experiences and their accomplishments. And I think that it's beautiful to do all of those things if you have it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have that. I think that people are just losing humility And so, because more people are sharing these parts of their lives, I think that that can come with a lot of negativity as well, because it exposes you to evil eye, it exposes you to people who aren't happy with their lives, projecting their insecurities on you. Envy goes beyond the mind because it takes hold of your spirit. It is a spiritual wound. By envy of the devil, death entered the world. So that's why envy is one of the most insidious wounds, because it is why, if you believe in the spiritual stuff, it is like the reason why, like, the most beautiful angel fell from the heavens, because he was envious of us. He was envious of how God loved us and how God saw us. He was envious of the unconditional love that God had for us. And so when he was thrown into the earth, he was sent here for his jealousy or envy of God creating man. Prince of the world, he rules the ego. The ego rules the mind. So if the spirit of darkness can influence your mind, he will do it through envy. He will do it through planting little seeds of jealousy, of comparison to other your friends, to other people, to your sisters, to your siblings, to your mother, to your daughter, like these little insidious thoughts that come, that we have to consistently check ourselves, not so much because they're inherently bad, but because of what that energy can become. The spirit of darkness thrives off of us forgetting our light. It wants us to be just like him, to prove to God that we're just like him. His whole goal is to influence us to do bad things, because he wants to show God that we are not as good as God thinks we are. He wants to show him that we're not that great. We weren't worth creating. And so he roams around the world, changing our hearts and changing our spirit, so that we act in ways that where we just self implode in ourselves. But the spirit of light, the spirit of healing, the spirit of learning about yourself, and the spirit of God and the spirit of love can cast away all darkness. So this is why I believe envy is the worst of all insecurities, because it creates egos that thrive off of competing, belittling, discrediting others. Like when you look at people who are racist or judgmental or have a lot of prejudice, a lot of them roam around the world thinking that they're superior to other people. But I personally think that it just shows their insecurity of superiority, actually, where the hatred just radiates from them. I think usually it shows to me just how deeply insecure those people are, and how deeply they haven't seen how valuable they are without the need to like bring other people down. If you need to look down at people to feel good about yourself, and that's really sad. And that's a lot of hate and chaos that you're creating onto this world. And a lot of us, our first experiences with envy are probably when we were children, sometimes by our own families. So what is the difference between envy and jealousy? They are very different. You feel envy when you want something someone else has. The focus is about lack, wishing you had what another person has, like their success, their looks, relationships, or opportunities. The emotion is often mixed with admiration, but it can turn bitter if left unchecked. Envy, we harbor something to the point where it's unhealthy, causing us to obsess or fixate on getting what we want, even if it means hurting someone else or losing our integrity. When we are overcome with the spirit of envy, we become ruthless, and we have no compassion for the person that is on the receiving end of our envy. We go hard on them. There's no softness for the person, because we see them as a block to what we want. You're no longer seeing the individual you're projecting on as a human being, losing all sense of compassion as we blame the envied person for the source of our unhappiness. When we're jealous of someone, it means you feel jealousy when you fear losing something you already have, often to a perceived rival. The focus is about protection of love, attention, position, or anything you feel is yours. The emotion linked to jealousy is often linked with insecurity, anxiety, and possessiveness. Jealousy is fleeting, We fear something of ours could be taken from us, but we can reflect, be inspired, gracefully move on, and not hold a grudge. I don't think that these feelings are necessarily bad. I think that if we don't have the self awareness and don't know that it's our responsibility to emotionally regulate, then that's when they can become insidious experiences. So, envy is I want what they have, and jealousy is I'm afraid of losing what I have. This false logic of envy causes us to believe that we are at a disadvantage while over exaggerating the advantage of the other person. People who are very envious, there is a pleasure in seeing the misfortune of other people. You want to see them hurting, almost humanizes them to the reality that you're seeing them in. They almost start to wish that you go through bad things so that they feel better about themselves. Like, see, she's not that great, or see, she's not as nice as she thinks she is. If you find yourself in the crossroads of envy, your goal should always be to protect yourself. As soon as you feel there is a imbalance in a friendship where they start to make weird comments about how you get this so easy, they have to work so much harder for this thing. I used to think, no, they don't mean it like that. But honestly, I've learned now that as soon as you start to see that somebody feels even an inkling of envy towards you, you have to remove that person from your life completely, because the chaos that that person is going to bring with the delusion that only they can heal within themselves. You can't convince somebody that they shouldn't be comparing their life to yours. I think that those comments are fucking weird. Had this one friend who I ended up having a falling out with. He would make these weird comments. You're one of the only people who I have a run with how I dress. And I would be like, huh? I remember thinking that's such a weird thing to say because I never think that about her when I see her dress nice. That wasn't even a thought of mine. But I realized that that little ping that I felt, that was weird. I realize now that every time we would go out to a party or to a bar, if people would compliment me, she would storm away and like run to like another spot in the bar because she didn't want to be anywhere near me. And I realize now that those little things are dangerous. And that person ended up projecting a lot of cruelty on me. I also want to say that I'm not a saint. Like, I have totally projected envy and jealousy on friends as well, especially when I was in college, where I acted in ways that I don't feel very proud of how I maybe treated some girlfriends that maybe I felt life, what I perceived as better than me. But what I've realized is that everybody comes with their own story and their own collection of wounds and experiences that they have to go through. And just because some people on the outside might look shinier or prettier or whatever it is that we perceive in society to be more desirable, that doesn't mean that that person doesn't come with their own set of wounds, and everybody comes with things. And at the end of the day, it should really be about learning to love your life and the one that you were given, so that you don't feel that need to compare yourself. That is why spiritual development is key. Almost everyone is living under some kind of illusion. Envy creates a society where everyone is playing this game, and only those who are smart enough to wake up can see through the illusion. If you are naive, weak minded, you will get brutally hurt. And if you underestimate yourself or don't have an awareness of your light, the most of the world is trying to dim your light. It's trying to convince you that you are not beautiful, that you are not worthy, that you are not enough, that you are not valuable, that there's always somebody who's better looking. And yes, that's true. There's always going to be somebody who is better looking, smarter, more successful than you. I personally have worked in fast fashion and I work in higher end luxury retail now. And I experience meeting lots of women and dressing them. One thing I have noticed I'm working with clients is that it doesn't matter what level of wealth you're in. Like, you could be somebody that's walking into a fast fashion store or somebody who's walking into these very luxurious stores. They all have the same tendencies. They all self deprecate. Sometimes you think that once I get all of this money and I'm able to afford, clothes that are at a price point that is beyond what I could think as affordable for me, I'm going to be happy. Those women have the same insecurities as somebody walking into a Forever 21. They're all having the same reactions when they look in the mirror. Kind of makes me uncomfortable sometimes. Not because I'm uncomfortable, I just have so much empathy for the women because I wish they saw themselves how I see them. I'm actually really grateful for these experiences because I meet women from all walks of life, and I personally do find each one of them beautiful. I find them all to be unique. And a lot of the times, it's not so much what they look like that brings their energy or attractiveness down. It's the way that they talk about themselves, how they come out of a fitting room, and the first thing they do is bombard themselves with negativity, like, oh my God, this looks terrible on me, or oh my God, like, I'm not the age this. So remember that the world is going to constantly feed you illusions that you're not perfect just as you are. So in the game of envy, you must not allow yourself to internalize victimization, because if others can convince you you are not valuable, you will never rise to the occasion of growth and evolution. I think that one thing that I've fallen a lot for is that I've been really naive on chemistry. So I've fallen for a lot of charismatic people. People who are just like a joy to be around when you first meet them. They have this way of drawing you in and making you feel like so seen, and they love bomb you and they make you feel like you're their best friend. Somebody who's charismatic but doesn't hold themselves accountable, doesn't seek to grow, doesn't seem to learn about themselves, doesn't self-reflect, doesn't like actually take their internal world seriously. That charisma that you see within them is actually a mask. It isn't who they actually are. And it is a mask that they've created to hide the internal world that's actually hiding within them. I'm not saying that every charismatic person is wounded. I just need more time. Like, just because somebody is super charismatic and can light up a room, I don't want to fall for that anymore. I'm somebody who's obviously very passionate about my self work and about learning and about growing. And a lot of people are into self work. It's like a trend for them. And so sometimes you'll even see people post like really thoughtful book or like a journal, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm reading that book too. And they're like, oh yeah, like I haven't really started it. It's just like they just posted it to seem thoughtful or to seem like deep. Really are really shallow, and there's no depth truly in there. And you have to be really careful of the masks that people wear, because it honestly, I think that it takes time to really get to know people. And those people who are like scheming to get something out of you, they're going to be whoever you want them to be until they feel like they've hooked you. And then when they've hooked you, they're going to show you who they really are. And you're going to be like, how the heck did I get involved with this person? Be careful out there, y'all. This feeling of hurt or victimization can cause us to become like those who betray us. I think that one of my biggest fears is becoming, so self-involved that I forget what my true purpose is. And I think that I'm trying to learn and grow and not create my growth as this superiority that I'm better than other people, just because I've done a lot of work on myself, constantly reminding myself of my humility and that I'm really not that important. Is how I trying to not harden my heart. I have noticed that when I was in a place where I was more meek, allowing everybody to take advantage of me, there were times where people have bullied me in front of others and nobody came to the rescue for me. Nobody defended me. Nobody had my back. It really showed me is that people will always choose who they think has more influence. Maybe I haven't had any influence that people have found valuable. So when I've been in experiences where people have actively gotten groups of people to treat me really unkindly, I didn't have a single person come and be like, you guys shouldn't treat her like that. Um, and they always continued to kiss the people who were like bullying me's butt. And yeah, I've had to learn really terrible experiences is that people don't care about you as a victim. And I know that that sucks to hear, but you have to like become strong, because people that are in groupthink and that are in people are always going to choose the people they feel have more influence or have some kind of advantage. So if you are somebody who is being bullied or envied on, like to have wishful thinking that people would come and help you and that somebody would have your back. But sometimes people, they don't want to be the one next projected on. That's me being kindly. A lot of people are weak minded and they don't think for themselves, and they want to be cool and they want to be with the cool crowd. And so they're always going to choose the group think mind because they have no brains and they have no integrity, and they're in the group because they want to be a part of a community even if that community isn't good for them. Why do you think bad people are in politics right now? Because people don't have a backbone. They follow things blindly, and if you are on the receiving end of a group of people that hate you for no reason, they're going to follow the group blindly because they're idiots. Honestly, let those people go and realize that you have to be your own hero and you have to be the one that defends yourself. Not necessarily by doing something to those people, but honestly, like running away from those kinds of people and cutting them off. I think that one of the worst things that we can have when we are insecure is wanting the love of people that are doing really terrible things to us. We're almost like masochists. You have to get out of the story of victimizing yourself. I think that a lot of the times people who are victims to groups of people who are envious of them or bullying them, we internalize their actions as like there's something wrong with us. There is something wrong with you, that there's a light within you, there's something unique about you, there's something special about you that stands out, that they are trying to snatch you out because they've lost it and they don't realize that they have that light within themselves and that they don't have to tear anybody else down to feel good about themselves. Envious people all have something in common, is that they're all spiritually weak people. They have no integrity. They have no sense of self. They are truly the deepest, darkest tunnel of insecurity. They feel inadequate. They don't believe in themselves. They hate themselves and they want you to hate yourself too. They believe consciously or unconsciously that they are inherently inferior, and they're all trying to get something out of someone. It can either be attention, their resources, the money, sex, validation, anything you can think of, anything that they can feel that can fill that empty cup that has that hole in the bottom. Do I think that everybody that's envious is insidious? I don't think that everyone who is, like I said, that is envious or jealous isn't a terrible person. I think that and the feelings of envy and jealousy can cause us to do really terrible things to others without ever feeling any remorse for it. They lack integrity, loyalty, morals, because their only focus is on getting their needs met. It does not matter who they have to go through to get it. They don't care. They will do anything to get the fix. So because they are looking for the next high, that next hit of attention, they don't value authenticity, love, respect, loyalty, genuine connection, because they only value outside gratification. They're too busy comparing what others have and what they have to possibly nurture what is truly fulfilling to the soul. They are constantly scheming and creating transactional connections. They don't value the traits required to treat people well. They surround themselves around individuals who are just like them or less than them, as anyone who triggers their wound of inferiority will soon receive the wrath of the envious person. It brings out the worst in people, and you might see the light in those people and you might think, well, if I treat them better and if I show them that there's nothing to be worried about, that I'm not trying to dim their light, all of a sudden you're going to make them feel secure enough to not treat you badly. Those people that are walking around with the spirit of envy and jealousy, they roam the world scanning everyone. It could have been anyone, but today it was you. Your next move should be inner growth and self reflection. Search for clarity. Why did I allow such a person to take roots in my life? And why did I allow them to be so comfortable with disrespecting me? Why did they feel so comfortable seeing me as like disposable, but you seeing them as like a permanent figure in your life? I think that that's been the hardest thing of like me realizing the imbalances in my friendships is just how much I have over flattered people because I thought that the kindness that they were giving me was so grand. Like, you have to be grateful for the things that people do, but be careful of not over exaggerating things, because then you start to create like illusions in their mind that they're more important than they actually are. And some of the ways that we allow manipulative people in: we lack personal boundaries. We struggle with feeling inferior. We're needy for approval, attention, validation. There's an inability to see your own value, waiting for others to confirm it. You're easily impressed, lacking discernment, lacking emotional intelligence. You're naive, weak minded, people pleasing, desire for approval. You have codependent tendencies. You have unhealed wounds and a victim mindset. And lastly, you're judgmental. If you are judgmental, if you're somebody who always feels the need to label things and label people, that's something that I know that I've had to work on, is that sometimes I assume things from people. Just remember that envious people are looking for your weaknesses and banking on your lack of self awareness and need for approval. If you lack self awareness and you have a need for approval, then you equal the perfect victim. Do not base a person's inner well being on their outward appearance. Sometimes people that are extremely charismatic are some of the people who have the biggest mask on. Their life is always perfect if they never make a mistake, because you want to see what's hiding under there. People will have everything. They will have money, resources, beauty, and be completely miserable inside. The scariest thing about envy is that people don't always want what you have. They're after your peace, your light. This is why it's a spiritual wound. I'm not somebody who thinks that people are envious of me because of what I look like or because of what I have. Trust me, that's not what I think people want out of you. Sometimes people are so miserable inside. You see somebody minding their business and they want to disturb your peace. They want you to feel the way that they feel inside. And those are the worst kinds of envious people, because you literally can't control that. Misery loves company. And if they have everything but still are unhappy, they don't understand why you could have less, be less in their judgmental eyes, and still have peace, contentment, joy. You literally trigger their demons. Those are the worst envious people, because they will literally look at you and be like, I'm there's nothing that I'm envious of you of. You might not have the looks that they want, you might not have the money that they want, you might not have the social status that they have, but they hate that you are okay with not having any of those things, because they equate those things as the most important thing ever. And so when you are somebody who lives your life being at peace where you are, they hate that. The sole purpose of initiating a competition, even if it's one sided, is to project feelings of envy onto you and to contaminate your spirit. They hope to convince you of your inadequacy in hopes of compensating for their own feelings of inadequacy. They're incapable of genuinely connecting to you. Anyone who has a smudge of envy, a smudge of jealousy towards you, can't truly be your friend. You have to literally cut them off like a disease, like a dying limb, and you have to cut everybody that comes with them. It's like a disease, they're like an infection, and they're passing around all of that toxicity that eventually will affect you in some way. And sometimes the only way to get out of all of that drama is to cut those people off. Comparison is the killer of joy and love and connection. Remember that. So there's three main types of envious people that you should be aware of that you will meet throughout your life. There are those who are the silent competitors, those people who think that they are better than you, feel superior to you in their mind, whether they be more popular, have more money, more attractive, whatever the illusion and judgment is, their ego creates an air of delusion where they believe their perceived superiority makes them deserving of whatever you have. They rarely show open hostility, but they quietly compare themselves to you. They may mimic your ideas, subtly downplay your achievements, or feel the need to one up you without ever admitting they feel envious. They have deemed you beneath them. These people are the worst, as they will try to sabotage you or won't let you peacefully grow out of the narrative that they have created in their mind. I have had just so many experiences with these kinds of people. And a lot of the times, I think it's because I kind of carry myself in a way that has been very insecure. And when you start to outgrow people from that perceived image that they've created about you, it really triggers people. It really brings out the crazy in them. I had a friend who totally hijacked a project that we had been working on and removed me completely from all of my creative work. And at that point, when she'd done that, I was like, "Girl, have it. You clearly need it more than I do." And now that I'm trying to, continue to create because I am a creative, I do feel like there was like a sense of sabotaging me, and she didn't want to help me grow, but she didn't want to see me grow on my own either. And you kind of have to let those people be because there's nothing you can do. They think that they're better than you, and they think that whatever success you guys were creating together was going to be theirs regardless, anyways. So you kind of just have to let them be about their life, keep moving forward. Because if you stay stuck on why did they treat me that way, why did they do that, then it's going to create a lot of like internal hate and resentment. So the second type of person is the supportive admirer, or the person who feels you owe them something. How they act. They act like they're happy for you, but their support comes with a twist. Backhanded compliments, subtle sabotage, emotionally withdrawing during your wins. They might only fully show up when you're struggling. They tick for tack the friendship until you realize you've been given more, pouring into them more than they ever did. They guilt trip you. Their kindness comes with at a cost, and they reap off the benefits of your success, but they also never want you to surpass them, so they aim to sabotage you. I've dealt with too many of these kinds of people. They usually connect with you so fast and want to be your friend so fast because they don't see you as a threat. You feed their ego, make them feel good about themselves, but as soon as you trigger their insecurities or growing out of the box they have put you in, they switch, icing you out. Be careful of those individuals who like when you're down, like those friends that like when you are always in a crisis. They claim to support you, but they don't like your work, or they don't even like engage with the things that you do. Well, you only are doing that because like I have to focus on work and I have to focus on this. That's why I can't be creative. Like they always have a reason to like downplay. So with those people, I'm at a place now where if I have to beg you to be in my life, or if you try to punish me when I'm not acting in the way that you want me to act because you want me to like kiss your butt, I'm gonna let you go. The third type of envious person you'll deal with is the open hater. These are the ones who can't hide it. They criticize, gossip, or dismiss your accomplishments out loud. They may try to humiliate you, challenge you, or take joy in your struggles. The spiritual danger here is their envy is overt, but their hostility can shake your confidence. These people often struggle with self worth and project their inner frustration onto others. This is the person who perceives your wins as their personal failures. They feel guilty of not managing their own gifts, resources enough, as your wins trigger their inadequacies. Their pride makes it difficult to admit their lack of focus or drive, so they criticize or obsess over an individual who is following their passions, dreams, or interests. Yeah, this is, you know, if you don't have a hater, then you haven't made it in life, they say. I have a lot of those. I feel like there's a lot of people who like openly dislike me, and I don't know what to tell you. So, the five stages of envy are: number one is judgment. Once you have triggered feelings of envy into someone, to alleviate themselves from the feeling, they begin to find things about an individual to judge and criticize and gossip about. How you talk, who you hang out with, how you dress, who you've dated. They are desperate to find something wrong with you, so assumptions begin to be created to justify their hate, going into overdrive to prove that you are not who you portray yourself to the world. They're the only ones that have figured you out. Please do not take it personally. It is not a representation of your value. Don't let these people convince you or change you, especially if the envy is coming from one specific person that has an army of human beings. You have to realize that they're going to start to spread little things on people's ear, try to create a sense of connection with them. Like they're going to bond over hating you. And they have this feeling of superiority because they've convinced themselves that you are inferior to them. They're going to do anything in their power, make your life a living hell. And you have to hold your head high, as it is all a reflection of who they are. And this goes on to the second stage of envy. They'll try to isolate you. When envious individuals find your presence uncomfortable to be around, they will isolate you. The intensity of the discomfort is becoming too much to be around. Whenever you are receiving compliments, praise, admired, it ruffles their feathers. They begin to isolate you, ignore you, create distance to subdue the agitation. They are so annoyed by your presence, they don't want you anywhere near them. I remember I had this group of friends from college who I'd made friends with in other areas and I would go to festivals with. This group of friends had basically began their journey of trying to tear down my reputation. And when I started to realize that these group of girls were really clearly very triggered by my presence because of God knows why. Because I was changing, honestly. I had just left ex fiance and I was, I was 26 years old and I would get attention and was living my life. I am being my young self. And all of a sudden, these girls just totally turned on me. And I was going to be moving to San Diego. And I hit them up and let them know, like, hey, like, I'm moving to San Diego. And they totally iced me out. And they completely just stopped talking to me. The girl that I had been best friends with for years, we'd been best friends for almost 10 years at that point. We were in like a karmic friendship where it was just really toxic. We were always fighting with each other. It wasn't ever like a healthy relationship. But that friend of mine really had an issue with envy and she was constantly competing with me. And these would get into these like big explosive fights, especially when we were out. She made a comment about how she felt very possessive over those friends. And I remember telling her, why do you feel possessive over people? Especially because I had introduced her to those people. Once she started to get really close to them, she started to like gossip about me. I remember texting her, setting boundaries with her. Like, I don't like the way that you treat me. I don't like the way that you treat me in front of people. And even that text message that I sent her ended up getting spread around that I freaked out on her. And I didn't freak out on her. I set clear boundaries with her and I spoke to her clearly that we couldn't be friends until she learned how to respect me without responding because she ghosted me after that. That she'd rather treat me like shit for the rest of our lives than be friends with me if she had to treat me like a human being. Envious people will try to isolate you because they think that everything that you are associated with is theirs. And it's delusional and it's not well in the head, but there's nothing that you can do because if the people that you've been around are also not free thinkers and don't have integrity, they're just going to fall for it. And they were probably never your friends anyways to begin with. So the best thing to do is when isolation happens is to be grateful. Honestly, be grateful that the isolation happens, that they block you out, because you don't know what kind of danger you could be put on if you continue to hang out with people who hate your guts. When people begin to create distance, it's hard not to take it personally, especially if they are people we've created an emotional attachment to. But really, this is a form of protection because you can recognize you may be outgrowing people, their expectations, people who can't be happy for your growth. Wins, evolvement should be kept at a distance anyway. Their isolation is purposeful, as they are trying to make you question your value. They want you to beg them, or worse, not to change or evolve to make them comfortable. Don't perceive the exclusion as discrimination as a sign of your value. It is a clear sign you're progressing, elevating, especially if at one point you were really close to them. Number three is imitate you. An envious person realizes that criticizing you and isolating you isn't alleviating the symptoms. They become so obsessed with you, they begin to imitate. The goal is to take you out. They begin to mimic you, compete with you with no remorse or shame. They ridicule and condemn the person directly or indirectly, and their goal is to ruin your reputation. Like, I can always tell when somebody is envious of somebody because even though they hate them, they want to have this close proximity to them, and they also start acting just like them. Like, they have no authenticity because most envious people don't have a true personality. Their personality usually consists of them picking at personalities of other people that they think are going to make them be cooler or more superior. They don't have true, genuine interests. All of their interests are collected from the people that they secretly admire. So number 4 is that everything starts to get really confusing with them when the envious person reflects on previous tactics, approaches to gain understanding of why they are unable to find enough fault in their target. Feelings of defeat and rage projected onto the target. They convince themselves the negativity they feel around the individual is a reflection of them and not of their negative spirit. So, this is when the envious person is like confused because they don't understand why they like you and hate you at the same time because they haven't realized yet that it's them that's the problem. And then the last stage of envy is destruction. When you realize that you are in the midst of the storyline of an envious person, is that when isolation happens, you have to leave then. You have to take it as a good thing. You have to be grateful for the isolation and realize that what's happening is purposeful and that God is taking that person away from you for a reason. Because once people start to imitate you, that's creepy. When people start to copy your personality or start to dress in the way that you dress or start to do things in the way that you do things, that's not admiration. You can be inspired by people. And I think that many times I've copied things that I like about my friends, and you're obviously influenced. But there's certain things where the person is like actively mimicking you. That's a red flag. And you should get away from them. When you get to the isolation part, don't try to mend the situation. Let them go. Let them be. As the envious person has reached a mental state of no return, their hate has grown so intensely they don't care about the consequences of their actions. Their goal is to end the envious person. Example, the lady who killed Selena, her best friend. You don't want to get at the stage. I think I recently heard this story, but people have killed their best friends because they've been envious of them because they feel like the person is genuinely taking something from them that belongs to them, or because they can't take seeing the person that they envy with what it is that they believe that they deserve. So protect yourself. I personally have experienced being in the midst of an envious person who did these stages on me, and I never want to have that experience again. So when I feel weird vibes from someone, I don't I don't try to understand why it is that they're acting that way anymore. I just remove myself and wish them well. You have to be careful because people are actually insane. Now we're going to go into how to protect yourself from envious people. The number one way to protect yourself from envious people is to remember that when you are in the midst of their envy, you are just the bystander. It really could have been anyone. It can just be that they're envious of your light and they want to snatch that away from you. So never let them change you or contaminate your spirit. Envious people can't fathom people not being like them. Your intentions were good, that you were being sincere with them, that you were being like genuinely a good person to them, that you genuinely wanted them to join you in your journey of growth. And so they begin to compete with you because they think everyone is competing. They think that everybody is thinking like them. And they're also trying to prove that you are not who you claim to be. So fight the urge to be petty, emotionally reactive, to compete, to get them to understand where you're coming from. No, stop fighting it. Like, if they want to ice you out, if they want to catastrophize whatever it is that you are experiencing with them because they want to create an experience where you have to go chasing them to be in their life, because again, they want you to feel like you feel inferior to them, walk away from those people. Walk away or put the friendship in God's hands. Your goal should always be to protect yourself. Hold on to your integrity, your morals, and your self respect, and always take the high road. I know it can be really difficult. I know that at times when people are projecting their negativity on you or they're trying to trigger nasty feelings in you, it can be really difficult to not want to react to what it is that they're doing. But honestly, the best thing that you can do is to walk away from them. I know your body wants to react, defend yourself, get people on your side to see your perspective, prove you're being treated unfairly. But this is not the time to do that. When my friend isolated me, I really wanted to go around and text everybody, like, oh my gosh, can you believe what they're doing to me? But something within me rose up and I was like, you just have to let those people go and let them think whatever it is that they want. I personally feel like the truth always comes out anyway. Eventually, people figure out the truth. And at that point, you probably want to be around those people anyway. So you won't even care what it is that they thought of that experience. Because I will say is that I believe that God loves an underdog. And I think that eventually people get their karma. I also think that people get their karma not when you're waiting for them to get their karma. It's usually when you've forgotten about them and when you aren't thinking about them anymore that you realize that, like, their life hasn't panned out to be how they thought it was going to be when they betrayed you. Go on your self healing journey, learn to be accountable for yourself and self reflect on your weaknesses and areas of growth that need to be developed, and grow in silence and begin to make moves to elevate yourself. Forget about them. Honestly, grieve the loss, but then really dive into your self growth. Pick up good spiritual books that start to grow you internally so that you can become spiritually strong and be able to learn discernment so that you don't fall victim of these kinds of people. I feel like if people really take the time to hate you that deeply and to be that terrible to you, it must be for a reason. It has to be. I think character speaks volumes. And if in the midst of a smear campaign, you hold your head high, continue to work on yourself, you grow and create better connections, people's karma will be your elevation. Find new allies, friends, opportunities away from people who compete, size everyone up, only seek connection to benefit off people. And people with the spirit of envy will never be able to be your true friend. So, yeah, set these people free, free yourself from the need to be validated. If you need validation, other people can find ways to control you through whatever vice you have. So learn your vices, learn what it is that you are addicted to. So learn to fill yourself up with your own energy, learn discernment, connect with your spirit so you can activate your intuition and create emotional intelligence. We've all been victim to an envious person. We've all been victim to a friend trying to sabotage us, even to boyfriends. I wanted to put that example. Sometimes guys are envious of us women. They do that by trying to ignite your jealousy and your envy. Like if you've ever had a guy try to triangulate you, I feel like I've dealt with that with sometimes with guys who I've liked who maybe are insecure within themselves and don't feel confident in who they are. And so they use different women to create that source of validation from them to fill that cup of emptiness, that void that they haven't learned how to fill on their own. And so I've had guys who have tried to make me jealous in front of other girls or flirt with other girls right in front of me when they clearly know that I like them. Sometimes men try to do that with other women where they try to pit you with another woman because they know that you're both insecure. You don't truly love yourself. And so they trigger an abandonment wound on you or a rejection wound on you because they know that you're going to become addicted to their attention. And a lot of the times you don't even like these people. Now I'm going to go into how to not be an envious person. Number one, understand that jealousy and envy is created from the lack of a stable confidence. So if you don't have a good self worth, a good self confidence, if you don't have a good feeling of a self image about yourself, remember that those feelings are going to be triggered within you a lot more frequently than somebody who has a solid feeling of who they are and a solid belief in themselves. Number two is arrogance and pride are a false sense of confidence. which will lead you to mental instability. Remember that arrogance is not confidence, it's insecurity disguised as confidence. Pride is having like a lack of humility. It's not being able to express when we feel out of control or feeling superior to someone or feeling like we always want to be right about something. Remembering that there is beauty in humility and that the most confident people sometimes are the quietest ones. They're the ones that don't have to create attention from themselves. They just have a sense of knowing that they matter and that they're valuable, whether the people around them recognize it or not. Number three is true self confidence is rooted in stable and unwavering characteristics of authenticity, a deep knowing that you are who you say you are. Number four is learn to be comfortable in your own skin, which just means knowing who you are, loving your body, loving your skin color, loving everything that comes with who you are, loving your face shape. When I was learning self confidence and how to change my mind, like I literally have journals where I just basically have affirmations. This whole journal is just I am statements. I am beautiful. I am kind. I am worthy. And I would write it every night, 30 lines of affirmations right before I went to sleep to start to change that little voice in my mind that told me that I wasn't pretty, that I wasn't good enough. Now, all the things that I felt insecure, like I would write at night opposite affirmations, even if it didn't feel true. I also would do this thing, like if there were certain affirmations that I really wanted to believe, like I would write 30 of them and then I would record myself and then I would listen to them as meditations, just to get my mind used to thinking positively about myself. Again, one of the things that I see the most in women, how immediate self deprecating comes to women and how I remember it coming to me. And, right now I feel like I'm fine and I feel confident about myself, but I'm sure that one day when I'm older, my body changes. These are all things that I'm going to have to work on to continuously remind myself to speak kindly to myself, that it's okay that my body's changing, that it's okay that I look different, it's okay that I'm aging. Like now, like I'm starting to get some grays and I never had grays before. And like your body is constantly changing and it's aging. And so reminding yourself that you're beautiful and that God made you uniquely perfect as you are. And a lot of the times attraction really isn't how necessarily how you look, but how you present yourself and how like the energy that you give off. Be comfortable in who in where you are. Don't let the world convince you that your type of beauty isn't beautiful. I try to convince myself that all the time. I am definitely not the standard of beauty and I know that I have a very, unique Latin face and I have to tell myself that it doesn't matter that I'm not the standard of beauty, that I believe that I'm beautiful and that really is all that matters. Embrace who you are. Don't be ashamed of anything you've been through. Remove the victim mindset. This creates a repellent for envy because you no longer wish to have another life other than the one you've been given. Master facing yourself so no one can shame you. Yes, I did that. Yes, I've done that. Yes, I said that. Yes, I had that experience. That yes, I made that mistake. Don't be ashamed of your story. Don't be ashamed of who you've been. Your story is valuable and it is the blueprint of where you're going. Number five is become the hero of your story. No one respects the pity, the victim, but the hero who overcame adversity. Take the path of wisdom. It doesn't mean you want to suffer, but it won't be out of your human ignorance. It won't be because of your insecurities leading you to distractions, just the ups and downs of life. I don't know, like I think that I'd rather be alone than be in bad company. Don't be in places where you're tolerated because you're afraid to be alone. Enjoy your own company, fall in love with yourself. And then hopefully, I think eventually you'll find people who reciprocate that feeling. And just remember that you are love and light and you are valuable. And I did a episode on Saint Teresa's The Interior Castle. I'm doing a series on her about the stages of consciousness and she says that we all have a diamond within us and within that diamond is God's conscious, that Christ conscience, and you have that within them and that is what makes you valuable, that diamond that's hiding within you, that soul. I wanted to read a little passage from this book that I'm currently reading. It's called The Imitation of Mary, but I just thought that it did a really good job at describing friendship. You will find many ordinary friends who will offer you outward signs of affection, but you expect nothing more from them. Such people will be your friends as long as they can profit by your prosperity. They will suddenly stop being your friend if your fortune takes a turn for the worse. They will try to correct those defects in you which may cause harm to themselves, but they are unconcerned with the defects which Christianity struggles against and the world cherishes. Be aware then of what makes a true friend: help in need, comfort in affliction, light in uncertainty, counsel in affairs, guidance back to the straight path when you have gone astray, and above all, exhortation by word and example to the carrying out of your duties. But such friends are rarely found, because it is rare that in choosing friends, men take virtue into account. Love virtue yourself, and you will surely find a worthy friend, another self. Many friendships seem in the beginning to be sincere and deep, but they soon fade because faults are the only common bond. As far as people, make your friendships a source of edification. Give your friends good example and receive good example from them. Find in such friends all the delight your conscience will allow, but do not carry the delight too far. Do not demand too much of your friends. Avoid flattering them. Above all, do not flatter them that you may be flattered in return. I really like this because it just makes you realize that friendship or connection is truly a gift, and to find true genuine people that care about you is honestly like a gift. I don't think that everybody is trash, but I think that it's very rare to find those people that are also wanting to grow and also evolving and take that growth seriously, and who aren't with you because they think that you can provide something externally for them. And I also think that about how true friendship should be leading you closer to virtue, closer to God, and closer to your inner world. Like they should be expanding your life in a spiritual way where you feel like, wow, I truly feel like this person has such a great impact on my life. I think that those people are very rare to find, and like I said again, don't envy those people with lots of friends. I find that people that are in giant groups have the most drama. So, yeah, this is the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you feel inspired. I hope that it leads you to self reflect on how envy has taken over your spirit or your soul, or if you are being projected on. I think neither of it feels good, but it is something that we can move through. It just requires some soul searching and some effort to change and to heal and to realize that our value comes from within and not from the external world. So don't forget again to like this episode if you enjoyed this message, and go check out my website, a little more inspired.com, to explore all of my content. I really appreciate it. So bye guys.